John James Audubon was an American ornithologist, naturalist, and painter that was born in the country that we now know as Haiti in 1785. Audubon's mother had died when he was only a few months old, and then became the illegitimate son of his father, Jean Audubon. His father took him to join his family in Nantes, France in 1788, where he was raised and adopted by the Audubons. During this time, John James Audubon had grown a love for the outdoors and hunting. He then came to the United States in 1803 to avoid being drafted in the country's armed forces and to enter into business. It was in 1807 Audubon had become a business owner operating a mine and a few general stores in the Louisville, Kentucky area. However, by 1819, all of those businesses had failed. It was then in the following year that he had taken on jobs that could provide a stable living for him, and was then growing an interest in drawing birds, which then would become the beginning of his best-known work, The Birds of America. By 1824, Audubon had wanted to attain publication for his bird drawings, but failed to gather support in Philadelphia, and made the decision to seek out a publisher in England by 1826. Audubon was eventually able to find a publisher as well as patrons who were willing to raise money through subscription for his work. In 1829, Audubon had returned to America. It was now supported by the American publication that did not previously support him. In 1838, The Birds of America was completed, and then turned into a much smaller version by 1840. Audubon's birds illustrations have become one of the biggest contributors to the naturalist illustrations in America. Now that we know more about who Audubon was, we can further discuss his ideas and techniques behind his work. The ideas behind Audubon's work is showcasing a time of the undiscovered and limitless wilderness where he would play on his strengths as a keen observer of birds and nature. Audubon had mostly been self-taught when developing his drawing techniques. He would also use a wide variety of materials such as watercolor, graphite, pastel, oil paints, chalk, ink, and overglazing to achieve his end results. Though Audubon had applied some commonly used artistic techniques at the time, he had also used unusual combination of materials. Many technical examinations of his work had shown a complexity as well as inconsistency of Audubon's techniques. However, Audubon's overall intention was to create work that translated into prints, as well as showcased his bird illustrations in their most natural form. As previously stated, Audubon had a love for the outdoors and hunting, so he would use those skills to draw his bird illustrations to achieve the most naturalistic as well as realistic depiction of them. Audubon had terminated thousands of birds and had also gained a thorough biological knowledge on the birds as well, since he would stuff and wire to pose them for his paintings. Which leads us into how we can connect art and science through Audubon's work. Though Audubon's artistic techniques can be conceived as unethical in nature, his publication of The Birds of America struck into the nation's consciousness and rallied conservationists to protect wild birds. This led to the creation of the National Audubon Society in his honor, which is a non-profit or environmental organization for conservation. This organization was recognized for protecting the Arctic Nation Wildlife Refuge, as well as other fragile habitats. Another impact Audubon had on the artistic and scientific society is that he was credited for the discovery of 25 species and 12 subspecies that the nation had never witnessed before, which had resulted in a big leap within the ornithology community at this time. From seeing how Audubon's art have made significant strides within our society, let's now have a closer look into his work and then compare it to other artworks as well. From these artworks, we have artist Alexander Wilson on the left and Audubon on the right. At first glance, we can see that both artists are using similar subject matters, which are birds. However, Wilson is illustrating the Carolina parrot, whereas Audubon is displaying the Carolina parakeet. A parakeet is a type of parrot that exists alongside a vast number of other types. Parakeets are small, playful, highly sophisticated, and I believe that Audubon had captured this in his illustration. Both seem to set different tones not only through the use of color seen in the birds, but as well as through the movement and emotion in both. In Wilson's work, it conveys more of a still drawing from the birds with their laid down wings and minimal expressions on their face, whereas Audubon feels lively in nature and captures a moment with different expressions on each parakeet's face. If we look at another work by Audubon, we can see that capturing the expressive nature of birds is very common in his work. And his barn owl illustration follows suit with this notion. By comparing the barn owl and the oxbow by Thomas Cole, we can notice similarities within the background landscape of the flatlands and the neat curve of the riverbed as seen as well. From Cole's work, we can see that one side appears ominous and wild, which is similar to the tension and vulgar nature depicted in Audubon's work, through the use of expression and posing of the owls fighting for the claim over food. This tension and wildness is reinforced through the dark atmosphere in the painting. From both these paintings, I feel as though conceptually address different environmental aspects, with Cole's focus being on human involvement or absence in nature, and Audubon's focus of the wildness and darkness of the natural cycle that we would otherwise not have seen. From Audubon's work, we can see that he does not shy away from the vulgar and natural cycle of animals in their habitat, as seen in his work, The Black Vulture. By analyzing Black Vulture and the Severed Head by Theodore Jellicoe, we are able to notice that both works have a dark and morbid nature to them, and showcase that with life comes death, and all of its cruelty, that might at times be difficult for an audience to digest. Though both works have different subject matter, they ultimately address the same concept of once living forms and the implications of its effect on its own environment. In conclusion, John James Audubon had made many significant impacts on the scientific and artistic world through his work. He caused a national awareness on ornithology and has sparked an organization of conservationists. Audubon also has made strides artistically through his realistic depiction of animals, as well as from his combination of media to achieve the look that he wanted. To this day, Audubon has impacted our country through his illustrations and has given us a better understanding of the environment around us.